How would you say you guys are ready?
Yeah, it's been a great fall camp. I'm very excited, pleased at where we're at right now, and looking forward to Saturday.
What did you like about Sam's performance and versus Shane, or how do you even compare those two?
Yeah, it was a great quarterback battle, very close, very tough decision. In the end, as we sat down as a staff, Coach Herman and myself, we kind of had our take on the things that we felt maybe Sam had a slight edge on. So those are obviously things between us and the quarterbacks, and so we decided to go with Sam.
His pocket presence, Tim, last year he's going out the back of the pocket a lot. How do you work on that? How does that become second nature?
I think first of all, it's an area we worked on, making better decisions. I think having confidence, A, in his ability, B, in the O-line, and just having a better feel for the game. And I think he's grown a lot in that area.
In that running back room, you've got graduate transfer, a guy who's been here a year, and right behind him on the depth chart is a true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
What do all three of those guys bring, and do you see using them, all three of them, pretty regularly?
Oh, yeah. I see all three, maybe four. I think one thing is provided great depth, which provided great competition. I saw things out of Tennille and Danny I didn't see last year. Both those guys got much better this season. But obviously, Keontae and Trey bring a different dimension with some of the open field running and the speed that they possess. But all four of those guys really, I got confidence in any of them. You get a chance to get in there, whatever we ask them to do, they're going to do, and they're going to do it really hard. And there's a lot of pride in that room, and Coach Drayton's done a great job with those guys.
Tim, Sam made a pretty interesting comment yesterday when they watched the game film at home on their iPads.
Yeah.
They said that they instantly pointed out mistakes that they made that they wouldn't even remotely make or could easily adjust this year. I mean, how do you assess that?
Well, just, again, familiarity with the offense, comfortability, just knowing what to do. It was funny, we were watching, I know even Shane was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what? He goes, I can't believe I didn't change the protection on this. Like, what was I thinking? It's become second nature for him a little bit now. And that's, the advantage of having, being in a system more than 1 year.
What does your offense look like with a healthy offensive line?
It's been good. I'm pleased. There's, that group's playing a lot more physical than it did. And again, I attribute it to Yancey. I think what he's done in the weight room has instilled a lot of confidence, a lot of strength in our guys, which creates great durability for them, so they could play at a higher level longer, and also so you don't get injured. And so we've been very fortunate. So that avenue, and then the experience that they have of just knowing. And there's Zach's next to Patrick again, and Elijah's back in the lineup who we missed the whole season last year till the Missouri game. So, and you got some guys that play like Kerstetter and Okafor, and then obviously Calvin came in, and he's a veteran. He's a old man of the group as a graduate guy coming in. So, it's provided depth, leadership, So that group is completely different than that group was a year ago.
Has right tackle been won by either of the two guys competing?
I think you'll see some rotation in there. I do. I think both guys have played well and have earned playing time.
What did a guy like Deshaun Jameson show you, the guy who really didn't have offensive experience, to show up on the 2D?
I've been pleased with DJ's ability to try to grasp everything, not being a receiver, learning everything. High school, they'd probably grab them, hey, get in there, run a post, and he ran by everybody and scored a touchdown. In college, obviously, it's a lot different. There's checks and coverages and route adjustments and leverages and things like that. So he's picked up quite a bit. But he's an electrifying guy in space, great change of direction.
Tim, you've been around big-time programs at the college level. You know how fans are easily critical.
Yeah.
They always have the answer, so to speak. But you tell the fans that who criticize play calling, and then what Tom has told us, that it's the entire offensive staff, so to speak.
To each their own. It's hard. I try not to get caught up into those things. I got a job to do, and my job is to try to put forth the best plan for these kids, to have them go out there and win. And it is a collaboration. We all sit in there. You got Drew Maringer, great, smart, young coach, been a coordinator. Herb Hand, been a great addition. You know, Derek Wareheim, who's been in the system for a long time. Corby Meekin's been a head coach, very successful. So he's been a guy that's game planned and organized. Stan Drayton's been at the highest level. You know, so you got all kinds of guys in that room besides myself and Tom Herman. So, you know, everybody has good ideas, and we sit down and we say, okay, in this situation, here's what they do. How do we combat that? How do we attack that coverage, that front, whatever it is? And then we put together a plan. And through us, as we go through the game, it's like, okay, we might have 4 calls on the goal line or 5 calls on the goal line. Here's the call. So it's never like I'm just inventing things through the course of the game, or Coach Herman or Drew or whoever it is just saying, hey, grab something out of the air and go, let's call this. Like out of a bag. We don't do that. It's very strategically thought out, and you know, obviously, the more again, just the experience that our guys have, they've seen things now. They can adapt better. The communication's better. The quarterbacks, I don't like this protection to this. I'm changing the protection to this other one because I see this. Last year they just ran the play, and it was a bad look. And so it's been good. And they've adapted. Our players have adapted really well, and I think that's caused success along with Yancey and the strength and conditioning and what they've done, and it's just carried over into a way different confidence.
What's been Herb Hand's influence on the running game, and how different will it look? Or
You know, Herb's a great coach. I mean, I love the guy. One thing Herb's done with his years of experience, he has a lot of different ways to get the same thing done. So, for example, you might base the guard and double team with the tackle and tight end on a certain play. But, you know, if the guard's struggling, we're going to change it and double team with the guard and base the tight end. Like, he's able to fix and maneuver and things along that line to our personnel, but also the play call. And obviously him coming in, you know, he's got some creative ideas and some things that you know, he's run over the years, whether at Auburn or Vanderbilt, Penn State, wherever he's been all over. So, and those have been welcome additions too, certainly.
How challenging is week 1 for a coordinator? You know, teams are going to show you things that they probably never put out on film. Maryland, of course, as new coaches, how challenging is it just preparing for week 1?
It is. You know, it's always challenging, but the biggest thing I think right now, we've been worried about us. There's answers to everything in the system. We have a play call. He knows where to go versus cover 2, cover 3, if it's 1, if it's press, if it's blitz. I mean, he knows what to do. Now it's, can he operate it at a high level until we can figure out what is their plan for us if it is different than what we think it might be.
So what do you think of this idea, or what do you tell your guys about this idea of prove us right?
Yeah, I love it because it is real. You know, I think that we established a culture. We believed in as a coaching staff, and I think even the players that are here right now believed in this is how you win. It's been proven at a number of different stops over the course of the years, and there's no shortcuts to it. You can't. And unfortunately, in our microwave society where you plug it in and hit 30 seconds and it's done, it doesn't work like that in real life. And you have young players and you're molding them, you're guiding them, you're trying to get them stronger, you're trying to teach them the game of football, you're trying to get great education and hold them accountable off the field and go out there and win games at a very high level. It can happen, and it happens at a lot of places, but rarely does it just happen immediately after 1 year. It does take some time, and I see that transformation taking place. I think our players feel it and see it as well.
what's your biggest concern?
Right now, I don't know if I have one. I feel good about our guys right now. I do. I
In
feel
terms of
really
them
good.
facing adversity,
You know, we've faced some tough adversity. We responded much differently this year than we have in the past. We have. I see it out there. The defense could be beating us, and all of a sudden, we just catch our breath and settle down and finish it off. You know, that's part of our, you know, what we talk about, finishing. You got to finish drives, finish games, finish your blocks, finish your fakes, finish everything. And so it's not always how you start. Things may not go great right out of the gate. It may not even go great in the middle, but how are you going to finish? Because in the end, that's the crucial parts of the game. And as you all know, 4 games last year in the fourth quarter we're winning. We didn't hold on to the lead. We weren't able to do our part offensively to score more points or keep the ball or whatever it was to win those games. And that's been a big thing for us this offseason.
Tim, has it been tough on you? This is kind of off topic. I'm trying to help our news department.
Yeah.
Is it tough on you when you see friends of yours, you're in the coaching fraternity, former employers like Ohio State? Is it hard on you, a distraction to block that out and what's going on?
Honestly, I don't. I got a job to do here. I try not to get involved in other programs. So I got a job to do here, a big job, important job. Number one, these kids deserve my best all the time, and then my family does. So that's kind of where my focus is.
You mentioned that you saw the team respond to adversity a lot better this fall camp. Coach Herman on Monday talked about he doesn't know what the team's going to look like if they say get down 10 against Maryland. You obviously have confidence that they'll be able to respond a lot better than they did last year because they got down pretty early against Maryland too.
Yeah, you know what? It's not even Maryland. We were down 20-0, I think, to Oklahoma. We were down in games, but I saw Sam Ehlinger battle back, and I saw Patrick Vahe and Zach Shackelford and LJ and Colin Johnson, and those guys battle back. So it's in them. It's in them. They got to believe in it. I think they do. I think they feel we could be a really explosive offense.
Kind of big picture, as you go through the year, what do you hope to see the identity of this offense become in terms of what you guys can hang your hat on?
You know, obviously, I'd love to see us run the football when we want to be able to run the football. That's always a key component to any great offense. When they have to or when they want to run it, they can. And that creates everything else. If you can't do that and you have to throw the football all the time, then you play into the, and I think you play into the defense's hands a little bit.
Tim, with a guy like LJ, how big do you envision his role being this year?
Yeah, he's had a great camp. Him, Colin, Devin. I mean, those 3 guys, man, I'm really proud of them. They've worked really hard. They honed in on their craft. They got, again, getting stronger. You can see it. I see a difference in them. I do. I see a difference in the way those guys play. I think they'll all be big players for us. I think we got some good young guys there too that are gonna, they have some wow factor to them.
Does little
Got time for 2 last ones, guys?
Does little Jordan qualify as a guy that you would create special stuff for him?
Absolutely.
How many of those guys would you say you have?
A lot more toys this year.
Yeah.
You mentioned Colin Johnson.
It was a good Christmas.
How was he improved? How was he improved from last season?
Who?
Colin Johnson.
Just, physicality, because, again, part of the strength that he got through the offseason, which, again, I mean, think about it. You guys all men in here, and you lift weights, you feel good about yourself, feel stronger, you kind of walk taller, you look a little different, your shoulder, and that's how our guys on offense seem to be a little bit. And, he's a very talented guy, and he knows that, but he worked hard on his craft. He worked on the things that he felt he needed to improve on with him, Coach Manager, Coach Meekins, and he did, and he's done really, really well this spring or this fall.
How much more do you feel like you're looking to use the tight end this year?
It's good to have them. Got 3 really good ones right now that I feel comfortable with any single one of them in the game. And that's a big part of what we lacked a little bit last year, I thought.
Do you care who rolls out there quarterback for them?
I think they're very similar. Obviously we played both of them last year, but
right.
we prepare for both of them. But they're not too far off. And then Matt's going to utilize them in a way that he feels is best based on what they've done in fall camp, and we don't know what they've been doing great. So Hill, Pigs, whoever shows up, we're going to be out there. So
How much more do you have in your arsenal this year, year 2, with these guys than you did at this point last year?
Oh, we have the whole thing in now. Last year we came into probably the first couple games, and you don't want to overwhelm them with the whole package. But this year, just the install was a lot more aggressive. The install at least for the first 4 days, it was probably about 65-70% of what we do. So it's pretty aggressive. So we'll come in with the whole plan.
Who in your mind has got to get in the backfield? I mean, Hager's gotten a lot of preseason hype, but who has got to make some
Well,
snacks?
I think all three of those guys. Breck's getting a lot of, but Charles has had a really good camp, and then obviously Nelly's played really well. Just voted a captain, and I think all three of those guys, and they have the ability to do it. We didn't do it last year, but I mean, this year they're much stronger. Yance has done a great job with those guys, and their experience, and they've been through a whole bunch of battles. So there's not going to be. They should be able to use technique and be able to set people up now instead of just kind of like I have to be here. They should be thinking about how do I beat guys because I have that type of talent. So all three of those guys have to play well, and then Taquan Graham has to play well too. To me, he's right outside that group of three that we can roll in there that should be able to give us plays.
The offenses that you're going up against, all about motion, pre-snap,
Yeah.
all the jets and stuff like that. And speaking with your players and the availabilities, they say that communication's how you counteract that. What does that specifically mean? Like changing fronts when it's the right
It's
time?
not necessarily changing fronts. It's just when you get a certain formation, there's coverage checks that go along with it. So if you line up one way and then shift to another way, then it has to be communicated. And then the final checks have to be over the final formation. So if they're shifting and trading and motioning and doing all that stuff, the final formation, might be 5 seconds after your first check. So it's just constant communication. So this way, we don't cut people loose in the back end. And we have structure in our defense because that's what this offense does. Miscommunication, misalignments, and then all of a sudden you have X amount of guys over here and they've got X amount of guys over here and they run the ball this side and you're beat. So it's a really cool system. If you guys got a chance to watch it from a coaching tape standpoint, it's, the flies themselves are very similar to the spread stuff where you throw bubbles. It just happens underneath the center. But when you click the film and you stop it on a fly, they got two guys blocking the guy with the fly. They've got to dive right behind it. So there's a lot of similarities to a lot of spread concepts. It's just different because it's underneath the center.
What has Devontae Davis done as far as being able to do a 180 from where he was last year to this year?
Just confidence. He's become a pro. I think, I've said this before, I think a couple weeks ago, that I think he would come in there and he would just, I'm fast, I'm big, I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to kind of shadow guys. And then, Jason's done a really good job with him of just making him professional, watching tape, being technical. And when a big, tall guy like that is technical, they're hard to get by. So he had some success. He has some confidence. Even when he gets beat, he doesn't let that play mess with him, and he just keeps going. And I think that's probably the biggest change because that's a lonesome place out there. And if you get beat up a couple times and people start to, get after you a little bit, you can lose your confidence real quick. And he showed a lot of mental toughness since the day I met him to where he's at now.
With Wheeler out first half,
Yeah.
who else will play middle?
Well, we're going to mix and match. Okay, we're still trying to figure out with Jeff whether or not he's going to be available. So it's to me it's going to go. We're going to let AP do his gig and try to get the kid right, and then it's probably going to be real close to game time whether or not we know if he's back or not. Now we got a plan. I'm not going to get into that part of it, but he's the guy that has practiced a little bit. Game time decision.
So is it a deal where could be see how he warms up type of thing, or?
I hope it's before that. But obviously when you go into that, that's probably the last because we won't be in pads tomorrow, but we will be pads in pregame. We'll probably say, hey, take a couple shots on this thing and let's see where it's at. So that's going to lead right up to the ball game.
Since he has been dealing with that injury this camp, would you feel comfortable with him? Is he ready to go?
Well, Jeff's a seasoned guy, and I don't know necessarily if he has to take 1,000 reps to be right. You just worry about his conditioning. That's probably the biggest thing. But they've taken him, even though he wasn't out in the practice field like physically hitting people, he's out there training to get his wind. That's probably the biggest thing that you see when you try to put a guy back into the mix is he just can't get his legs underneath him. He can't get his wind underneath him. So I don't mind the football part of it. He's played enough ball around here to figure things out, so I'm not worried about that.
Is there offensive line and the strength of that offense compared to other position groups?
If you want to say offensive line / running backs, I mean, yes. and because they're experienced up front, and they, like I said before, and they knocked us around last year, but their backs are legit. I mean, when you look at them collectively, like almost close to 1,900 yards last year in that league that kind of prides themselves on stopping the run. I mean, you're playing some legitimate run defenses up there. So their backs, and Ty's a legit back. Harrison, those guys are legit guys. So, and to go along with a system that, you know, we believe that they're going to put a whole bunch of those guys out in the field and try to get those guys the ball, since DJ left them last year.
You like to play 11 guys primarily.
Yeah.
With the depth that you have at safety, do you see guys like Chris Brown getting into the game?
Yeah, I do. I think Chris has proved to us to be reliable, and Chris can still run and hit, but Chris is really, in my opinion, has really turned into a pro. I mean, I think beforehand he had his moments where he would go in there and do some really good things, and then he would do some things that were like, come on, you got to be more reliable than that. But this camp, I thought, me personally, he's really impressed me. So I have no issues with Chris being on the field right now.
And nickel and dime?
It would be those situations.
Todd, when you lose as many people as you did from that defense last year, I mean, the culture changed. Do you still feel it from even the sophomores and juniors? They had the expectations where they police themselves. This is the level of defense that we play.
Yeah, it was good because a lot of those guys that, Deshaun and Malik, they weren't with us during the bowl game, so we had a chance to kind of like gel together, and it was kind of like the first stages of going into this. Puna hurt, Puna was one of those guys that, was there the whole time, but I think there is an expect. The one thing that those guys did a great job of is they rose that level up, and they said that you can do this. So they leave a kind of a legacy for us that, like, Deshaun's a good example, like, okay, I had this many, I'm a semifinalist for the Thorpe, like Caden Stern, this is what I did. Malik Jefferson, to Gary Johnson, maybe I was the player of the year in this league. So Puna Ford, same thing. So they leave that kind of like, hey, listen, I am leaving you to go to the next level, but this is the expectation. So we are starting to see that. I think there's a lot more people starting to think that way. And I think in the past they probably didn't. I think they probably said, if I can make 3 plays, I'm good. But now it's like, okay, if I can be the next Puna Ford, that's what I'm trying to get accomplished.
How is Chris different from Puna with the one?
They're very similar personality-wise. Puna's a little bit more twitchier than Chris is. But I'll tell you, Chris has had a really good camp. And Chris is really, he doesn't get overly, high, doesn't get overly low. He's always right in the middle, and it's really good. The same way Puna was last year. When we weren't doing well, he could rally the troops, and he could calm everybody down, and he could always make a play. And Nelly's made during camp, and you can ask our offensive line kids that he's doing some stuff that, like, whoa, where has this been? And I think it's a credit to Yancey and his crew that made him a little bit more twitchier, more explosive.
Have time for a couple last ones?
I know you were impressed with Caden in the spring.
Yeah.
If he doesn't enroll in the spring, do you think he becomes a starter?
I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think any of those guys are there now. He's a unique athlete now. Maybe I would be wrong, but based on the amount of time that we can have with him during the summertime and going into fall camp, I'd probably say no. But that kid has surprised me on. But when you look at the guys that you're going to see on that field, you're going to see guys that have been here since January.
You mentioned that you signed a very talented defensive back class. We've hyped up that class a fair bit, but Herman admitted Monday that Kobe Boyce was the third corner. What has he done to, even with talented guys like Jalen and Anthony, to lock down that third corner spot?
Well, he's doing a really good job of covering guys. What Jason has done too, and we do this during camp, when you get into like practice 11 or 12, we sit down and say, okay, if Chris gets hurt, what do we do? So we take Kobe and we put him with the first unit because that's our best guys. I mean, if you can cover Colin and LJ, you're going to be fine in our league. So we put him versus the best guys, and he responded and he played well. And he's just one of many of those young guys that we will put out there with the first group and let them go for a couple practices and see if they can hold up. And to me, another guy that's been around this system that has really good tools and was impressive. He can get on people and he can stay on people and he can go up and jump with people.
How's Brandon Jones
really
different from last year?
Confident. he doesn't over-process things. I think last year he's such an unbelievable person. I mean, that kid, I hope my daughter like grows up to be like that kid. I mean, that kid is unbelievable. The thing about him, sometimes you're so conscientious in trying to, like, hey, coach, I want to do well for you, that you almost overthink things. And I think now he's like, okay, I understand exactly what you want. I'm going to go out here, and then once I figure out and this ball snapped, I'm done thinking. I'm going to use my wheels and I'm going to run. He's been great at tackling. So, I mean, he's, I think Herm asked me this early on in camp. He's like, who's your dude, your valuable guy? And I said him. And that's the guy that kind of holds us all together. There's so much stuff going on back there, and he's been phenomenal.
Your defense had the benefit of having one of the best punters in all of college football to be able to pin guys so far back. Have you had to do anything different in the offseason to kind of adjust with life without Michael Dixon?
We haven't. I mean, hopefully we get the same production. Probably not going to happen. He's killing it out there, man. He's godly. It's impressive what he's doing in that league, and Seattle's very happy. But there's going to be different ways of doing field position. I mean, I think we all think about that bowl game and what he did for us and what he did really won the game. He should have been the MVP, and he was. But we're going to have to manufacture some field position too to go along with it until our guys come along. But have we worked at anything different? We haven't. I think it would help us to get more turnovers. I think that's one of the things that we can do a better job, get more tackles for loss and get more sacks so we can create some negative yardage plays so we can flip the field a little bit better if we're not getting the nets that we normally got last year.